So, hi, welcome to this podcast. I'm Shane,
I'm Glory.
and we're here with,
And Steve from Wolves at the Gate.
and we're some questions to say about the upcoming album, Wasteland. So, congrats on that, by the way. How do you feel about the response to the announcement so far?
I feel good about it. That's yeah, I feel good.
That's
More so
good.
just stoked to with every release. It's like you just like can't wait to release it. So
For sure.
just glad it's out there.
Yeah. Well, the album rips. It was phenomenal.
Oh,
Dog.
thanks.
Yeah, this record was insane. I loved it, start to finish. Crazy.
Oh, awesome. Yeah,
hmm
thanks guys.
You're welcome.
Yeah, of course. So, is there any meaning behind the album title or cover art?
So yeah, with this album, we've been trying to like create like a world, basically like a world of metaphor essentially. But the idea of wasteland kind of came from, the idea of there's different like mentalities or like states of thought that I can find myself in.
Mhm.
And Wasteland is one of those places that I could find myself in, which is it's basically just like the most selfish expression of, sort of my nature. And I think everyone's nature. And when you just try to live for yourself to just satisfy all your own desires or things that you will make you happy regardless of anybody else, you end up becoming just like a social vigilante basically.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't really care who you hurt in the process, and it's a mentality that I think is so easy to adopt, to just think about self and self only. And to live selfishly. And that's definitely like a major component of that album. But it also deals with the fact that of like that gets exposed at times too, where people point out the way that you're living, and you you like want to hide it
Mm-hmm.
desperately. You don't want to embrace it. You don't want to even admit that you did anything wrong. We try to defend ourselves, and it's just such a destructive way to live, and it's not sustainable either. And so what the album is really just sort of exploring is what happens to somebody who tries to live that way, and then tries to deny the fact that there's any repercussions for living completely selfishly. And for
Mm-hmm.
me, all that's sort of through the lens of just my own faith and beliefs regarding, not just like my relationship with the people in my life or humanity, but my relationship with God. And what is, how does that impact that? And
Mm-hmm.
how do I respond to really the reality of the fact that everything I do is like seen, it's not unseen.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And how do I come to grips with the fact that there's actually a lot of guilt that falls at my feet? So
That makes sense. Did you like was this the initial idea going into the record? Were you writing songs that kind of were all saying the same thing, and you felt that it made sense to, kind of theme the entire record around it? I'm curious, like where that came about in the process.
so I kind of like decidedly approached this record differently.
Mhm.
I kind of told myself what I wanted to do, musically, and also not necessarily like exactly lyrically, but I knew that I wanted to tell a story, and I wanted to use sort of the idea of like putting people into a world instead of, in the past, I probably would have just like written songs about those things that I was just sharing with you, and just sort of expressed it as you do, like through your emotions. But what I've been trying to do is find ways to do that through sort of building this world and putting like metaphoric like monikers on
Mm-hmm.
things like parasite and synthetic sun and law of
Mm-hmm.
the land. They're all just metaphors and expressions of, parasites kind of realizing, why do I keep falling back into the same patterns? It feels like there's something inside of me that like I can't get rid of,
Yeah.
Mhm.
that's feeding on me. Synthetic sun is sort of trying to hide the reality of the truth that I don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
Law of the land is also just kind of living how I want to live, and
Mm-hmm.
because that's how everybody lives. And so if I want to get what's mine, I need to play by everybody else's rules, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. So that was, I had all those sorts of concepts and I had the ideas, but I kind of like chose to sort of hem myself in with those constraints beforehand because I felt it might make me write lyrics differently, make songs differently, make them
Mhm.
sound different. And I think that happened for us, and we're yeah really excited about that.
That's
Oh yeah.
great.
And any meaning behind the cover art?
Um, hopefully the cover art really is, I guess, intended to help people get I guess a perspective of we're telling a story and there's a journey,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and that with this album we're kind of playing the long game. Um, a lot of times, I think in the past, either I try to do a lot either in a song or even in one album, and I've realized we've done a lot of that in the past. I kind of want to maybe open up the landscape a little bit, and so I think with the album art you can kind of see that it just looks like this like sort of like daunting, you know, sort of landscape mixed of, you know, dystopian structures, but also like destruction and
Mm.
ominous in a sense. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of layers. There's a lot of, I guess, layers in it, but also just aesthetically, it looks cool. So
Great.
Absolutely. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So I know you already kind of touched on it, but if you'd like, you can go a bit more in depth. Can you tell us a little bit about the writing process for the album?
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of songs, and really, this was the first time that I felt like we were critical of what fits this album in a much different way,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and also sort of some of my favorite albums have sort of this like seamlessness to it, and it's kind of making a resurgence. You know, if you listen to even some more modern music, like even like Spirit Box's most recent album, there's like a seamlessness to it,
Mhm.
that where you kind of feel like the songs flowing together in a
Yep.
natural way. And I think that's something that's been lost in music and something that I almost kind of forgot about myself. One of my favorite albums is by a band called The Receiving End of Sirens, and their album Between the Heart and the Synapse. It just the whole album just like flows together, but the songs are so distinct. And I wanted to do that. I feel like we've, for anybody that's been a fan of our band or listened to us, we've never given them that. And I really wanted to challenge myself to do something like that because I love that experience as a listener.
Mhm.
And I was
Mhm.
kind of like going like, why have you never tried to do this? And the answer in my head was because it's hard. That's why.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
It's
um,
daunting. Yeah.
Mhm.
absolutely.
Understandable.
So, with that in mind, now there's a concept. You wanted it to flow seamlessly. I'm curious about the entire length of time for the process when you kind of started writing the record and then when the masters were in hand. Rough dates, they don't have to be exact.
Yeah. So r- after Eulogies, yeah, like after around it got put out, I was already writing songs. So Eulogies came out in 2022, I
Mhm.
think. Um, so that process really started then, and we did a cover album in between,
Mhm.
Mhm.
Lost in Translation, and really, uh, we were just going to do like a single or two. And I was not to say like we didn't like care about what we were doing, but we were trying to make that as like a gap fill because we were spending a
Yeah.
lot of time trying to create what we're doing with Wasteland and the things that were coming subsequently. And so I think the masters for Wasteland were in hand maybe a year and a half ago.
Oh,
Mhm.
Um, but we're working on a lot of music, so it's the time from 2022 until now was definitely needed to kind of put all the pieces together. It felt a little bit like a jigsaw puzzle, which I love puzzles, so that worked out
Yeah.
for me.
all right.
That's
Been a
wonderful.
busy 3 years.
Yeah, yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
So, what song off the album took the longest to write, and which one is your personal favorite?
Hopefully, the ones that take the longest to write are my favorites. Otherwise, that would,
You,
Be
you
great
would
if they
hope.
if they were that.
yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be really rough. It's like longest to write, least favorite.
Damn.
Still couldn't quite crack
Um,
it.
yeah, I think longest to write would have to be Memento Mori, um, because that song took so many different like iterations and what it became. is so different than the way it started.
Hmm.
Um, and but it's tough because Death Clock was also another song that like the bridge was like the only part. It was a part that I had written, and the whole beginning of the song was totally different.
Hmm.
And I ended up realizing that the bridge was actually what the like chorus should have been.
Yeah.
Um, and so those two songs probably like were took the longest, but they were the most rewarding. And so to pick between the two, I would probably say Memento Mori,
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
because it definitely has like a very different feel than anything we've done before. There's lots of like just different like guitar stuff that I've done that I did in that song that I've never done before. Rhythmically, it was really different.
Hmm.
Has a different like feel and weight to it. So that that one's probably yeah close to being a favorite. And I know the rest of the guys in the band, that's probably their favorite as well.
Solid pick. Hell yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
So how'd the track list for your album come about? Did you guys write the opener for the opener, closer be a closer, shuffle around and see what fits? What was that process like?
that was actually pretty easy,
Okay.
which was great because in the past it never feels easy.
Yeah.
But we were writing the songs to like to fit sections of the album. Like everything was written with a purpose. Like
Yeah.
when we were working on Pain, and Intro, we knew what we wanted those things to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the same thing with Unrest. Like we wanted it to be a closer, and we wanted to do certain things to kind of tell the story. And
Hmm.
so, and all the songs in between, hopefully follow that same sort of progression
Hmm.
of, yeah, I guess what we're trying to, um, how we wanted the music to tell a story, and then how we wanted the lyrics to tell a story too. So,
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It's
I know
wonderful.
you mentioned it was challenging this record in terms of writing for it. Can you talk about the challenges? Because like it sounds like there's a concept. It has to flow seamlessly. We're writing songs to fit on certain spots on the record. All things that you haven't taken a swing at before. So I'm curious about the challenges and maybe how you guys overcame them.
yeah, I mean, a lot of the challenges that I faced is, as a songwriter, you always deal with the things that come naturally to you.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes those are good instincts and sometimes they're bad instincts. And a lot of the things I needed to work through was, um, what are the good instincts that I have that I think will work for what we're trying to do, and what are the bad ones?
Hmm.
And well, not necessarily bad, but just don't work with what we're trying to do, or things that
Yeah.
maybe I want to grow out of, you
Hmm.
know. Um, and so like one of those is just in with lyrics is trying to give more give more, I guess, distinction between certain concepts, but then also a part of wanting to tell the story is, if you notice, like each song borrows a little bit from the song before,
Hmm.
to tie them all together, where it's almost like you hear me referencing what I just like one little piece from the song before,
Yeah.
because it helps sort of tell that story. And so um that was like not that would be like a no-no in like normal songwriting albums
Hmm.
and whatnot, but that was like more intentional. And then also, yeah, musically is thinking more about, does this sound serve the message or the feeling or the emotion that we're trying to convey?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Hmm.
otherwise it's not going to land as it should.
Yeah.
And so those were definitely challenges. It really just made me think about like, how does that what does it feel like to feel that feeling, if that makes sense? And
Yeah.
Hmm.
it's a really weird sort of existential, question, because you can't it's a feeling, it's almost subjective in some senses.
Yeah.
And so I guess giving myself license to go, well, this is how you want to express that, so that's okay, and not really think about too deeply like what somebody else might think, which is stupid, artist songwriter brain, where you're just like, don't think about other people when you're making music, just do what you're trying to do.
Yeah,
Exactly.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. And would you be able to tell us where your headspace is at while you're creating this record?
It's funny, I talk to my wife a lot about like the lyrics, because she's really good at kind of like helping me sometimes I feel like I have just like a word salad in my brain, and she like helps me um like consolidate my thoughts, or maybe a lot of times it's either something that she'll say, or she's just also a good listener and will just let me kind of like, dump out the things that I'm thinking, and
Yeah.
she'll recite back to me what something that I said that is actually like that's the main point, or that's the
Yeah.
way to articulate that. Um, and I remember like sitting in our kitchen talking with her about it. The kids were asleep and it was late, and we just kind of like went through the lyrics together,
Hmm.
and she said to me, I think exactly how I felt, was she goes, "Man, I can't wait to get out of the wasteland." And I was like, "Whoa."
Whoa.
I was like, that's exactly that's like the best way to say it.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
I want the wasteland to almost feel like I want to get out of here.
Yeah.
Like
Hmm.
I don't want to be in this place.
Yeah.
And that's kind of those are the things I was trying to express, is that feeling.
Hmm.
And Yeah, so hats off to my wife Giovanna for just nailing it.
Shout out.
Shout out
That's
your wife.
really
Hell
cool.
yeah.
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 So how do you recommend your fans to listen to this album for the first time? Should you do it in the car with friends, in dark with headphones on? Is work at album, party album? What do you personally recommend?
That's a great question.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, I mean, to each their own, but I've always been the kind of like, when an album comes out, I want to make sure that I have time, like I'm not going to get interrupted or have to like miss a section. And I'll
Hmm.
sometimes wait even when an album will be out for a few weeks. It's like I don't want to just put it on and then it gets stopped because like I'm done driving or something.
Yeah.
And so that's how I think I best appreciate and consume music, and really think about and appreciate what the artist did and putting the time into it.
Hmm.
And so I mean that's what works for me, and I think that's what when I get the most out of listening. And I also feel like it's the most inspiring for me too as an artist,
Hmm.
is to just go, I want to hear your thought from start to finish, and give you that um yeah give you that, I guess, uh honor or privilege. Like it sounds, I don't
Yeah.
have a better word for it, but I want to just give you that opportunity because you just did. Yeah, that's better. Yeah,
Yeah.
Glory's
Hmm.
like
I
that.
was
The
like, that
third
that
one
was the
was
word I
better.
was gonna say, but I was
Thank you.
waiting. It looked like it was coming. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's a dying
And
art these days. No one wants to listen to records in full.
like
Yeah,
actually,
Yeah.
yeah, it's very
yeah,
sad.
yeah. But I
So
think I think it is coming back a little bit. You
mhm,
see, like it's really just like the real, like the super fan, like bands that have super fans. Like you think of like Sleep Token, those fans are listening to every song.
Hmm.
21
yeah,
Pilots, those fans are listening to the whole album.
Hmm.
yeah,
But you see, like those two names that I mentioned, they're massive because they have such a dedicated following. Because it's a
hmm,
group of people that get like, I know you're giving me everything.
hmm,
Um, and so hopefully that's what we're trying to do. I'm really just trying to give you my best. This isn't like my best like pitch at like getting on the radio or getting a viral song to pop off. Like we're just
hmm,
trying to make something special for people because one, the message is really important to us, but also lots of bands have done that for me too, and I'm really grateful for that. And I want
hmm.
to be able to do that for other people.
I love that. Hell
That's
yeah.
great. Wonderful. And this one should be super, super quick off the top of your head. I want you to describe this album for new listeners in 3 words. No more, no less.
3 words.
3 words.
So I would say honest,
Hmm.
weighty,
Hmm.
and immersive.
Those are
Ooh,
good.
damn straight. Those are
Yeah.
good.
And in that same train of thought, is there a certain feeling or emotion you want listeners to have while going through the album?
I feel like it's probably the same one that I always think is just introspection,
Mhm.
or
Hmm.
being introspective, is think, just to think. I appreciate, regardless of whether I agree with somebody's perspective or not, when they can challenge me to think about what I believe about something.
Hmm.
Um, because I think we should be sure about what we believe. And
Hmm.
in our music, we talk a lot about God and the gospel and who is Jesus.
Hmm.
And regardless of what your background is, I want you to be sure about what you believe. And I think that talking about weighty things like, life and death and eternity should really cause you to just to think like, why do I believe what I believe? And am I
Mhm.
sure about that? Um, and hopefully, through that people find hope and truth. Um, so
That makes sense. Yeah,
Wonderful.
introspection, like basically open up a conversation. Like if you were to
yeah,
listen to it with friends, open up
yeah,
that conversation.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, yeah, it's happened to me with different bands, like hearing different perspectives and different beliefs, and it definitely causes me to just, I don't know, really think about what I believe, but also to maybe um, it does endear me to people that I may disagree with
Mhm.
and cause me to just think, I don't agree with you on that, but I understand why you're hurt by X or
Mhm.
why you might feel that way. And
Mhm.
it does help me when I write songs and relate to people. So
Mhm.
absolutely.
Damn straight. Wonderful.
mhm.
And are you able to touch on any particularly challenging or standout moments during the creation of the album, positive or negative?
Yeah, I think one of the most challenging moments was creating the intro track into the first song, into Pain.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Just because I was trying to, so with the intro track, it's supposed to actually feel, without any words, it's supposed to feel like being born.
Mhm.
Oh,
That's
okay.
what
Yeah.
it starts off like really pretty,
Mhm.
and then it shifts.
Mhm.
Um, because if you think about the first line of Pain, um, um, it says first light, pain, first breath, scream.
Mhm.
Like when we're born, what does every baby do?
Mhm.
It's like you come out of the womb, this like dark and
Waylon.
yeah,
Yeah.
this like dark and cozy place, and then you're just
Yeah.
thrusted into this world, and
Mhm.
their first react, a child's first reaction is to cry out because it's
Mhm.
like, what's going on?
Yeah.
You're out of this place of comfort.
Mhm.
And so that was really challenging for me to try and create something that would feel that way. Now, I didn't say that I don't feel like anything's perfect, but I was really happy with how that came across because it felt like it did sort of capture that feeling
Mhm.
and emotion, and then Nick screams. So
Yeah,
Yeah. Damn
that's so
straight.
awesome.
Yeah.
For the last couple of questions, we're going to shift away from music. So, if you could be one animal for the rest of your life, what animal would you be and why?
Mhm.
my first thought was dog, because I
Okay.
love dogs. I have a
Mhm.
dog, and I just all the time I just tell him like, you've got the best life, dude. You
You're so
just
lucky.
just just living it up.
Yeah.
You don't even know what a tax is, man. Like, come
Exactly.
on, man.
Yeah. But he is never satisfied. Like I've never pet him enough. He
Mhm.
Every time I'll pet him for like 20 minutes, and then I'll stop, and he'll just be like, dude, what the heck?
What are
Yeah.
you
Shoot you
doing?
Yeah.
daggers.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. He's like, you
Hmm.
betrayed me.
You Judas.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Every time.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
without fail,
Mm,
every time. Yeah. So I mean, but it's tough. I mean, the three animals I thought about were dog,
mhm,
eagle, because if you've ever seen a bald eagle, just
mhm,
majestic, and you're just thinking like that just has to feel awesome to
mhm,
just be gliding and through the air. And I don't know if you've ever seen a bald eagle in person, but they're
mhm.
big. They're actually
They're
big.
massive. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
they're huge.
yeah, pretty impressive creature. But then
Mhm.
a lion was the third one. So if there's some sort of like hybrid of those three, sign me
Uh-huh.
up.
Hmm.
Sign me up.
Isn't
Okay.
that like it's like Greek mythology where it's the
Yeah.
lion, the eagle, the oh, isn't it like a bear? Is it what is it?
Yes, it's something. I was picturing some
Griffin?
what
Griffith?
a griffith.
Griffin?
Yeah, a
Yeah,
griffin.
something like somewhere in there, I think. I
Yeah,
don't know. Yeah.
griffin.
Hell yeah. Hell
Yeah.
yeah. And if you could have lunch with any celebrity or artist, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
People know I'm a Christian, so like the stock answer would be Jesus, but I think that'd be pretty obvious for a lot of people, but I'm gonna go somebody less in the realm of supernatural.
Uh-huh.
Um, I think I would really enjoy talking to C.S. Lewis.
Oh.
Um,
Mm,
he's a writer.
mhm.
He wrote the Chronicles of Narnia, but he's
Yup.
also known for a lot of his other writings that I've really appreciated. He's spoken a lot about,
Hmm.
um, a lot of his writings like The Abolition of Man, Grief Observed. Um, yeah, so he's just probably one of the brilliant minds, and he thinks very differently than I do. And
Yeah.
I don't even agree with him on there's a lot of things I disagree with him on, but he's such a brilliant thinker.
Mhm.
And the thing that I've appreciated about him the most is he's always tried to preserve the awe and wonder of who God is. And I think that that is lost in a lot of modern Christianity, where God's sort of treated as if he's completely understandable.
Mhm.
And to me, that's no God.
Mhm.
If he's other
Mhm.
and awe-inspiring. And so I would love to sit and talk with him and probably have my brain flipped upside down. So
Yeah.
Exactly. Having that conversation.
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah,
And for this last question, boom, you're on a desert island. You can bring one movie, one album, and one person. Who and what are you bringing?
I'm gonna bring my wife.
Yes.
Good answer.
Yeah. My
Bring my wife. Yep.
Yep.
Josh Gilbert from the Spirit Box says that every time I say my wife, he says the Borat my wife. So maybe think of him.
See, as everyone should. It's just
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'd never thought about saying my wife the same again because he kept going, my wife. I was like, yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah.
And you said one album.
And a movie.
Gosh. All right. If I was gonna pick, I guess I would pick A City's Burned, Son, I Loved You to Your Darkest.
Okay.
And then one movie. I'm just gonna go the first thing that came to mind, Return of the Jedi.
Nice.
Ooh, classic.
All right.
Yeah. Yep.
So as I said, that's all the questions we have today. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
We already did it. The album.
Yeah.
If you've gotten this far and you don't know there's a new album,
Rewind it. Run it back.
Breaking news.
Nothing I'm gonna say now is gonna help you remember. Yeah, we got a new album. Thank you guys for listening and supporting us, giving us a platform. Appreciate it.
Of course. Well, thank you for now. This has been Steve from Wolves at the Gate, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.